Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your next hour with us. You know, it's a Saturday. I know there's fun stuff, but thank you so much. I'm Joseph.
And my name's Kate.
And on behalf of both of us, I'd like to welcome you to Georgetown University Theaters and Performance Studies production of An Acorn by Caridad Fitch. The show runs about an hour and 10 minutes with no intermission.
At this moment, please take note of our 2 emergency exits, which are right there and right there. Also, please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. Thank you, Jenny. And refrain from texting during the show. Also, all photography and videography is strictly prohibited, and please know that this show contains adult themes.
The story begins one morning at 9 a.m. when it seemed as if a certain part of the world changed forever. In this story, you hear the voices of many people, sometimes as if they were one.
But I ask you to remember there is more than one voice.
Throughout the story, I will also ask you to remember that we are here together in this space, although it may seem at times as if we'll be in an apartment or a train or an office or a room or a city street or even in someone's consciousness.
Inside this story is another story. This one is about a person who also woke up that morning and found themselves thinking about their childhood and things like hope when a small object from nature landed on their floor.
This is a story about a person that lost their voice and how they found it again after some time in the forest. Morning, 9 a.m. I wake with a start. I switch on the news. I watch fields of red across an inky map. I wonder where I am.
Morning, 9 a.m. I have not slept all night. I am in a state of shock. I can't even look at the map as it grows larger and larger on my screen.
Morning, 9 a.m. Upstairs, people are whooping, cheering, making the kinds of sounds animals make in heat. I want to burn their house down, but I can't. I'm downstairs. I don't want to die with them at my side.
Morning,
Morning.
9 a.m.
Whatever I am, I
Spring
am
memories
getting
of
ready for
childhood.
work.
Continuously all night,
A
my
birthday
friend
party
has been
gone
watching
awry.
porn all evening.
Balloons
the
and
house
ribbons
stinks,
crashed
my
into a
breath
tree
stinks,
outside.
May we all rot in hell.
I find an acorn on the floor. It must have flown in through the window. It is said that in ancient Greece, the lower classes would eat acorns in times of famine. Morning. I pray. I like praying. Small gods enter unannounced. I watch them. They will be with me for a long time.
Look, let's be sensible. Let's be rational. If we can't be rational in this day and age...
Shut your fucking mouth.
I hear the man across the street. It's 11 a.m. Everyone in the room is crying. Dark eyes, sleepless faces. Someone is hitting the table with their fists, head down. Someone else wears a fake smile.
It's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay.
I want to call someone. But I didn't charge the phone battery.
May we all rot in hell.
In the glare of the fluorescents, there is no place to hide.
Look, we can be sensible if we just...
The news blares. Sirens are silent. I reach for the nearest bottle of water and drink.
11 a.m. It's early. We have the whole day and another to make
You
sense
think you know people. You think you know those that live right next to you? I don't trust them. That's all. There's something about their face. I just don't trust them.
Look, what we need to do now is be calm. Just be calm and get our bearings and be with each other. Can we do that? Can we just be with each other?
I hold the acorn in my hand. I feel its edges, its warmth. I look out. The woods are far away. How did it get here? One day, One day it will tell me its story.
Noon. It's still early. The house is in darkness, all the windows are shut, all the curtains are drawn. I want to get used to the darkness. I want to learn to live without light.
This is a test. This is only a test. The emergency system will let us know when we can be back to normal again.
But what is normal? We know it doesn't exist. What's normal for you is not for me.
In some lands, it is normal to penetrate someone with a sword for kissing someone of the same sex. In some lands, it is normal to bash someone's head in for saying something against the beliefs of those in power. Let us pretend normalcy is not a given. Perhaps then we'll know what we really mean when we face each other in the dark.
2 p.m. The metro is crowded. No one talks to one another. Outside, the sun is shining. I love irony.
Staggering from my hangover, I reach for the nearest pen. I stab my hand with it. I watch the blood flow.
Too early to tell, but it is clear. It is clear we need a song to unify us. Something cheerful, something that feels like hope.
I run to the bookstore. I search for the book, the one with the answers. The woman's calm voice says,
You should all stand.
So we stand.
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 We remain.
We remain
standing. An acorn falls to the ground in a house far away. We see it. We do not question nature because it is said it has answers for us, if we listen.
It could be that we dreamt
It
this.
could be that we desired this.
It could be that we didn't know who we were at all.
It is 4 p.m. Another day. Anxiety seeps through my pores. I want a drink. I want a fire. I want to light the world.
It won't do any good. It's all fucked. It's been fucked since day one. I knew this a long time ago. I could have told you, but you never wanted to talk to me. It's the witching hour, the radio says. I feel at home with my darkness. I am starting to become accustomed to being blind.
Like Oedipus. Isn't he our father? Shall we render praise?
I am starting to become accustomed to not speaking.
Like Philomela. Isn't she our mother? Shall we render tears?
It is 4 p.m., but it feels like midnight. I want to crawl towards my bed, but someone moved it last night while I was sleeping.
We were so drunk. We were so drunk.
I smell it everywhere.
If we're calm, maybe we can find a way to say us again without feeling as if we're betraying everything we believe in.
Actually, I'm not sure we ever believed anything. I mean, look at past
We don't want to look at it because it's nice to think it was all rosy and all decisions made by those before us were measured and considerate of humanity when we know. We know.
Optimism is an ugly word. It asks nothing of us.
Pessimism is an ugly word. It asks nothing of us. Give me no words.
And for a while, it's nice. It really is.
It's so nice to see you.
Have you been here long? Shall we go out later? Shall we talk about things?
Give us a moment.
Thanks. Thank you.
It's 6 p.m. I am exhausted. This house is furnished with old things. Old, crappy things full of sentiment. I want to be rid of everything. I want to start anew. I want to live somewhere else. A friend says Canada.
Canada. Everyone's smarter in Canada.
I want to punch them. I want to hit them where they live, but I hold my nerve. We're not like that. We're good people. We don't hit unless there's a really good reason. The acorn shivers. Maybe it's also dreaming of Canada. I put it in a drawer. I refuse its eyes.
Today, I got up. I went to work. I trudged through the rain. Tomorrow, I will do the same, if I still have work. If I don't, I will spend my days looking for another. And so will my neighbor, and so will that other person that I never talk to, but that I see every day when I take the train. And yes, there will be that other person that never works, and sometimes it will be easy to say they are worthless, but today we won't do that because we are trying to be nice to each other. We are trying to be nice to each other.
We are trying to be nice to each other.
But the small gods are always with us, even when we don't see them. In a land where we were once from, they were called demons. They would whisper into your chest to see how far they could wreck you.
We call it honesty, telling it like it is. We call it the new culture. Although we've been living with it for a long time, we don't even think about it anymore because it's 8 p.m. and we've had however many cups of coffee and however many bready things, and we don't have 1 ounce of anything left to...
You came here looking for a story. You came here looking for a reason. Look out, world. There is no reason. No reason at all to believe.
At this hour, at this moment, you're angry. You are piss-fucked. Because we came in through the back door and set up house when it was someone else that should have been here. This one lots more light and furniture and costumes. Look, over there. All of the costumes and furniture and light you could ever wish for. There were even roller skates and gilded archways and elevators where dragons can enter in great plumes of smoke.
Real dragons! Can you imagine?
You've been sleepy, my friend. You've been watching the wrong channel. What hell planet do you think we live on? I have news for you.
I open the drawer. The acorn hides under the knives and linens.
I am starving. The famine will set in soon.
If you could do anything, my friend says, click. The phone is dead.
I open my wallet.
I open my veins.
I open my arms to the soul next to me. Hey. Hey, stay calm. This is just a phase.
This is just a test. The emergency system has plans for you and me.
10 p.m. The radiator is hissing. My neighbor's mouth explodes. They stood there on the lip of that stage and said these were the end days, and we laughed. Nothing could be further from the truth. You want to talk money?
I am swimming in it.
It is a banker's field day.
When we lived in the woods, when we lived far away, sheltered from the world that made us pay, we dreamt of a new place, and it was beautiful.
Try to imagine, they said without a lick of irony, someplace else. This was the day, after many days, we were in that sleepless state of unreasonable lightheadedness that causes accidents and other hazardous things. Try to imagine. We had been trying for a while, actually, although we didn't call things awful then. We just shouted a lot and stood in the rain and screamed at those in their offices up high with our placards held as temporary flags of resistance. And then we believed rather too romantically in being part of some sort of lineage, some sort of revolutionary design. The world would rise up in our favor, and for a while, it did. Imagine. We were this close to changing the world. But you could see it, of course. The signs were all there, hidden under veils of speculation and furtive maneuvers of power. The walls were rising up. The walls were all around us while we chanted and sang and thought about how we were post everything. It was only a matter of time.
Time is an illusion, they said. Without a lick of irony, I wanted to smack them. I really did. I felt all of my rage well up in the form of a fist, but I couldn't go through with it. We're cowards. We're sheep. We're inheritors of debt. We'll never get out of it because bills, you see, there will always be bills to pay no matter who sits in whatever office. Try to imagine a world without debt. A pile of bills faces me after the holidays. I open them with my teeth and pretend I am a warrior. You said I looked ridiculous, and I gave you a fake smile out of some sort of desire for your sex. Bills must be paid. You hid under the duvet and sucked my toes. This was not appropriate, but you sucked anyway, and for a while, it was like that time we had our last holiday many years ago. Back when we lived on tuna and ramen and crackers and hope. God, we were so young. We were so stupid to think we could afford a holiday. We didn't know any better. A sea change of life. I could have told you then penalties would accrue. Fuck it. Fuck them. I don't want to pay anything. Mandate my fucking ass? Who asked me? Did anyone call me up and ask how I felt about putting a law in the face that affects my monthly nut? Easy for them to say, easy for them in their cushy seats and gold curtains to just keep asking us to pay and pay and pay. Sheep. That's all we are, to think that for these things that cut across all lines, we do not rise. It's enough to make you stand up and... I think at some point, maybe we stopped. We did. We stopped caring about ourselves, just accepted being little bits inside the big machine. Even then, even when we shouted and raged and stood in the rain and called ourselves disruptors, somewhere deep down we knew in this world it would all come down to when the creditors would come knocking on our doors, and the reality of that would hit us in the face like ice. No bailouts for the debtor class. Your toe sucking won't let me concentrate. Set fire to it all. The taunting words of the small demons are starting to make sense. Torch it to bits. What's my life worth? What this stack of bills do? This furniture? This bed? This lamp? This pillow? This desk? This chair? This phone? This phone? This phone? This phone? This machine? This icebox? This knife? This fork? This blanket? This coat? These shoes? These socks? This box? That box? The toys? The stack? The desk? The craft? The clocks? The bags? The keys? The backpacks? The cups? The birthday? The office? The train? The mug? The market? The branches? The trees? The air? The ocean? The window? The door? The air? The ocean? The earth? The pit? The earth? The dirt? The trees? The branches? The oil? The coal? The earth? The plastic? The oil? The coal? The earth? The fuel? The wires? The carbon? The clippers? The cloud? The earth? The screen? The screen? The screen? The screen? The big and small? The laundry? The apartment? The garage? The box? The flat? The book? The car? The kite? The back? The weight? The weight? The weight? The weight of it all! And for a while, it's nice. It really
So nice to see you. Shall we go out later?
Shall we talk about things?
Give me a moment. Thanks. Thank you. 'Cause when we go out,
That time I must have been about 5, 7. The trees, the woods. It was late. I was tired, scared, hungry, cranky. I picked up an acorn. I did. I put it in my mouth.
I pretended I couldn't speak. The acorn had wanted to stop in my throat. They said,
Open your mouth. Stop being such a cranky child. But I wouldn't. I loved the acorn. I loved its rough oak on my tongue. I loved knowing what no one else did. That I could be silent. That I could be or do anything in and with my silence.
Because when we go out, it's so nice to talk to other people.
It seemed to me that the future, if we were going to have one, would require some sort of sacrifice. This was not a religious thing, but more like something that had to happen. Something in our lives, the ones we often took for granted, here anyway, would have to be seriously challenged in order for something to change. And maybe no, not for the better, not for a while, but just to be awake.
Sorry, I was sleeping. I didn't know it was Monday. It had been Monday for a long time. You said everything would be fine, all days would be the same, the future had been written, so what did it matter if we voted or not? You said these things, so really, this is your fault, all this, because you let me sleep under a blanket of red and patches of blue and thought, why bother waking when this all would be over soon? I didn't know I was dreaming. This was Sunday. This was the week before. This was months and months of the longest campaign in history, and I just wanted everything to end. Couldn't listen to one more word, battering my brain, turning everything to jelly, no telling truth or post-truth. It was all the same. All shame. You knew this. You told me. You said there's nothing we can do. Sleep the days away. We shouted everything yesterday, and today was another day. Today was coffee and laundry and walking out of doors to faces red with tears, eyes clouded in sorrow, smiles hidden under pale scarves and shiny boots.
I want to tell you a story because I know you've been waiting for one for a while now.
You've been patient, you've been kind, you've been restless, and maybe even wondering, is this a story? Is this a story? Where are we? Where have we been all this time?
Actually, we've been here. We've just been here. And before that, we were outside. And before that, we were in our rooms with our things and our boxes and our earth and our water and our plastic and our trees. And in a way, we were fine. Because we like our rooms most days. Even without furniture, even with crappy things, we like our rooms more than anywhere else in the world. Even the park, the forest, the trees, we like our rooms because we can do what we want in them. We feel safe.
Even when we're alone, even when we pretend we're happy.
Yeah, we feel better in our rooms than we do anywhere else in the world. Because we understand the stories our rooms tell. And how they tell them. And how they'll tell them tomorrow and the next day. Because they don't depend on going out. And being with other people. And dealing with their nonsense and stupidity and violence and suspicion. It's been happening for a while now. Going out. The eyes. Looking at you. The unspoken judgment of, how was your weekend? Snide smile.
The cash register.
The market. Even when you're wearing the right clothes, or the right shoes, or the right anything, there's that feeling of, maybe you were the one. Or your neighbor. Maybe you fucked everything up that morning. While the rest of us were sleeping, drunk, wasted on our own self-righteousness.
Listen, we're sheep. And I think the more that we admit that to ourselves, even when we go out, it could be really healthy. Because then we wouldn't have to worry about anything. Even with tears and fires and guns and chokeholds and no breathing, even with tears and guns at clubs and parties and theaters and places like these with other people skin against skin and hate, not love, because love costs too much.
So yes, a sacrifice. That morning at 9 a.m. I stopped speaking, just like I did when I was a cranky child. Except this time, I didn't have an acorn in my mouth. Couldn't feel the rough oak on my tongue. I just felt empty, wounded, and full of rage.
Like that time when you told me everything would be all right and I just screamed at you. Because really?
Really?
Really? All right? Really? What kind of privilege?
4 a.m. I am getting up earlier and earlier. I am resisting the temptation to sleep. I have this theory that if I stay awake long enough, I'll be able to see everything. I don't want to see any of it, any of that thing, but if we don't watch, if we just ignore whatever's happening, how will we know what to say? The last time we just turned things off. We allowed it to happen. We gave them permission. We said those guys were idiots. And even though they were cynical, hypocritical idiots, we paid them no real mind. And look what happened. Our neighbors came back from the desert with fire in their eyes, and some of them never came back. I don't want what happened then to happen now. Because I'm still angry at all of them, at all of the cynical idiots. I'm still angry at the known unknowns, even though, yes, that was a long time ago, they say, and we have to move on because what else can we do? We can't stay angry at them. Some of them are old. Some of them have faded into the recesses of their ranch houses with their families. We can't drag all that out again because the world has changed. And while, yes, what happened then was instrumental to what's happening now, but we can't do anything about it. Not about then, because all that is over. But this, we can speak to this if we stay awake.
I don't want to say anything. The acorn trembles in my hand. I'm carrying it with me now. Took it out of the drawer. Couldn't bear the thought of it next to the knives. There's been enough violence. I'm thinking about moving away, just for a while. Pack up all the crappy sentiment and head to the woods. Live with nothing. Just air, trees, and a small fire.
What you have to remember, do you remember, is that we protested back then. Back when all that happened some 10 odd years ago, we stood around the world. We stood around the world once in the rainy city. It was called the Battle of the City of Rain. Do you remember? You said they were the most important days of our lives.
Our memories fail us. Our rage subsides. We stand and then store our photographs in a file. Sometimes we remember the file is there and we wonder who we were then.
6 a.m. Tea and honey, tea and bread, letting go of old habits. We've had enough acidity in our systems to last us a few centuries. We're trying to slow down. I hope that our anger does not become a commodity.
The kind of unease sits in, different from the usual.
My friend says that everything is a sales pitch, and maybe what we need to do now is actually not join in the raging chorus of rage on all sides, but rather think about how things take time. How all this took time to manifest, and that there may actually be something in living in belong now. The clock stopped some years ago. The regular clock.
A new clock was placed inside a mountain. In 10,000 years, maybe we will know how to really live.
If there's anyone left. I didn't know anything about the woods.
I just started walking.
It was a Sunday.
I wore the acorn around my neck.
I swore to myself in what seemed like an unending silence that I would make something of this time that had made an abrupt nothing of our lives. Someone called. They knew I hadn't been speaking. They said,
Contact the doctor. Ask for a remedy.
what I already had. The doctor said there was nothing wrong with me.
Your throat is fine. Your vocal cords are fine.
The silence had something to do with my psyche.
I made a raw sound.
The doctor ignored me.
The line of patients waiting was a mile long.
Good day.
They said,
As they led me out the glass door,
And into the cold sunshine.
when I was 12, I told my people I want to live on a glass beach. They laughed at me. They found me amusing. They said,
Adolescence is such an interesting time.
8 a.m.
I decided to write a letter to the ocean.
I find paper
Actual paper.
and a pen.
And start writing.
Dear Ocean.
you've been through it all. What lessons can you teach us now?
I tuck the paper into an envelope and take it to the nearest post office.
The person looks at me.
I am dead serious.
The envelope goes into a bin. The letter shall be sent the next morning.
As I walk out the glass door and into the city of concrete. Long ago, we asked ourselves questions about our duties as citizens.
We knew this meant my duty to you there,
And you too.
On the other side of the ocean.
The questions were innocent at times and at others best left unsaid.
but at least we asked.
At least we understood that my duty to you extended beyond the foot of this bed into which you sleep with me at night.
And yes to you
And yes
there,
to you
unknown,
there.
Yes to
standing
you
in the
there.
maze
Yes,
of your
standing
city,
there,
and listening to the
unknown,
belly of your
standing in the
country,
maze
and
of your
crust
city,
of
walking
bread
through
on
the
your
belly of
tongue.
your country, a crust of bread on your tongue.
In the heat of this moment, we rise.
An elderly person watches their car set on fire, the windows to their store smashed. Who will pay for all of this? Who will pay?
You reach into your pocket for your 16th credit card. The clerk says they will wait, the clock ticks, your eyes meet. This one has to go through because all the others have been declined.
I'd like to tell you a story about your need for stories. I'd like to tell you a story about why you think all things like this have to have a plot. But then I see you looking at me, just as you were doing now, a little hesitant, worried, perhaps a bit vulnerable. And I say, hey. Give me your hand. It's okay. We can do this. We have done this before, remember?
Maybe in some church.
Maybe in school?
Maybe at that party.
We offered our hands to strangers and said peace.
The ocean is full of letters. The inky waves let out a gasp. The lessons take years to reach us.
We wait.
The first day in the woods was rough.
I am not a campfire person.
I am not even attention.
This living sound,
Being in like a hut.
felt weird.
Scary.
And like something out of a horror movie.
One of those adventure stories.
That we read as children in English class. The acorn rested on a small crate. A lantern lit the walls of the hut. I had bottles of water and folded up packs of protein bars against the soft wool of my blanket.
My wallet is thin, a few folded bills, and a 16th credit card
For emergencies. Only for emergencies. I wanted to tell myself that this was an emergency because the world around me was on fire.
But I was sensible. I knew better than this.
I knew that in other places the world was really on fire. Much more than this. And the fact that I could be in this hut at all with my 16th credit card was something of a minor luxury.
I didn't see it that way because I had never caught to the idea of a safety net. So really this was it. There was no nest egg, no trust fund, no magical cushion to fall back on.
When I left that morning, I left everything. Even my phone.
Although yes, I had a backup. I hadn't left everything entirely. I knew that I could run into an emergency. And that this was a test. Only a test. To see if the ocean would speak to me.
I had gotten used to my silence, as much as I had gotten used to the darkness. I enjoyed the sound of the world I barely let myself hear.
The woods are loud. Louder than you think. People say they're quiet, but there's always noise. The animals and insects and birds are always communicating. I don't know their languages, but I listen.
If I listen long enough, maybe I will learn a word or two. I could use a new language with which to move about the world. The hut is
Small.
uncomfortable.
Monastic.
I have no grand illusions about earthly sacrifice. I was never much into saintly visions or cosmic prophecies, so this is not that, if you know what I mean.
A sound. A
A
text.
text.
Happiness awaits. A 2-day sale promotion on new machines.
How did it find me? How did it know I was here? What does it mean by happiness awaits?
Delete. Shut it all down. Lie on the thin bed under the wool blanket. Wait out the night.
Soft tremor of daylight hits my skin. My eyes adjust to the newness surrounding me. I still think I will see you making breakfast in the nook by the bay window, but then I remember I am not there anymore, and neither are you. You are marching, you are shouting, as we both once did. You set off to stir everything up and grew angry and impatient with my silence. When I fell, do you remember? When I fell down the stairs? An accident. You scolded me, told me I should have watched where I was going, that I should have seen the signs, just as we both should have heard the signs a long time ago. I shouted with my hands. You ran down the stairs. This all would be over in no time. The acorn is not on the crate.
I searched the floor of the hut.
Nothing.
Where did it go? Where?
I walk out.
There is a nondescript chair outside the hut.
Left by someone else years ago. It's an old chair.
Maybe Scandinavian?
I'm not good with designs.
But it feels Nordic. I've always wanted to visit those countries.
The grass near the chair is thin and rough.
There are little flower shoots embedded in the soil.
But no acorn. I searched the hut for signs of entry.
Maybe an animal.
Nothing.
I sit in the chair. The sun is peeking through the clouds.
As if we were saying hello.
I'm hungry. The protein bar lists many nutrients, but it tastes like sewage in my mouth.
I pretend I like it.
I pretend I am okay. I pretend I can make sound.
But inside I am nauseous. My whole body is retching. I feel like that person in the red coat I saw once throwing up in the parking lot of the supermarket.
I wonder what it's like out there in the world. The one with the news.
I reached for my backup phone, but I stopped myself.
I don't want to know.
I do want to know.
But I don't want to know right now. Not yet.
I don't want to know anything.
Because it'll be more of the same, and right now I'm trying to
Just breathe.
You are out there marching. You are out there shouting. One day you will come back to me. Or maybe we will meet each other in a cafe after the ocean has sent all of its letters to us. And you will tell me how fucked up it all was. And how you missed my hands. And how you even missed the sounds I tried to make when my tongue stopped speaking.
someone comes up to me.
Is this the hut? The hut where that poet once lived? Poet, I think. Wrote about the woods, wrote about being alone, had parties here. Yeah, people would come, drink, talk about things, discuss the state of the world. A lot of change happened in this hut. And not just mopey spiritual shit, but real change. Like, is it okay if I sit here? Can I sit here? Tired. I need to rest. I've been walking for days. You don't talk? My cousin had that. They stopped talking once. They saw something that freaked them out, or they went through something that freaked them out. I don't know. But they were like you, sort of. Know what I mean? Is that why you came here? To the hut? 'Cause you freaked out? People do weird ass shit when things go down. My other cousin went to live in Canada when that other stuff happened. Never came back. I wonder how they are. I mean, I know I could visit, but we weren't close, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm curious, you know? Like, what they do there in Canada. 'Cause it's big, right? Yeah, a friend of mine loves Quebec. Says it's amazing. I actually have always wanted to visit those islands where the First Nations people are. Like, I know they're in a lot of places, but there are these islands where they speak this really interesting language. I heard a recording once by this musician guy. It was amazing. Really peaceful. The sound. Do you like this hut? That poet that lived here once was really something. You should look them up. It was a real radical. Like, I know that word is so overused nowadays. People use it for everything, like radical sushi. But this poet and their people, they did a lot of good in this hut, even though it doesn't look like much. Fucking cold, right? Yeah, you'll get used to it. Always gets cold in the mornings. Didn't used to before. Back in the day. The climate is so messed up, right? Like, it was fall when I set out. And I'm talking, it's been a while now. A long while. Except some days it's freezing and other days it's baking. We are so fucked, right? Yeah, and they still say it's up for debate. Like, what fucking else needs to happen to the earth? You mind if I take your picture? Not to be creepy, you just look sort of cool sitting there. Like a postcard from long ago. Or like someone I met once. Is that alright? You, want a protein bar? I know, they suck, right? Don't care what they put in them, and don't care what they say. They always taste like you're eating the bottom of the earth. How about some wine? What's the old saying? Never too early for wine. Besides, it's good for you, right? Antioxidants and all that. I know, I'm weird. I don't mean nothing by it. It's just been a long time since I've talked to anybody. It's been hard, you know. Everybody judging you, wondering where you stand. Like, I tell people, I stand by stuff, sure. But most of the time, I find myself having to stand by my wallet, which these days is pretty empty. Like, zero. I owe everybody everything. Like, so much money. I tell them, I ain't got it. How am I supposed to pay for something I ain't got? Hell, we're all the same. All stuck on the same raft. Except for those guys. Way up top. I hate those guys. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I could be one of those guys, I would. It'd be hella nice not have to worry about where the next check's coming from. Like what they stand for? I don't get it. Sometime I think some dragon should come down and just do their thing on them, you know? Show a taste of their fire! Real dragons. Can you imagine? I'll figure it out, I guess. Like everybody else. Or maybe I'll just move to Canada. Find that cousin of mine and knock on their door for some change. You sure you don't want anything? Alright, well, I better get going. Hit the next town before dark. I'd say there was some kind of job there. I don't know, it's probably nothing, just some made up scam shit, but you never know, right? Drink some honey. For the voice. It helps. At least that's what my cousin used to say. The sun bears down through the clouds as the person walks away.
I look down at the thin, rough grass. The acorn looks at me. It's been resting near the dandelions all this time.
How did it?
I didn't even know there were dandelions here.
When I was 7, they deleted dandelions from the dictionary. I had to ask those that came before me to help me identify what they were when I came across them.
The word comes back to me now.
Dandelion. My lips make it shake.
The sound accompanies it.
Dandelion.
Is this my voice?
Is this what I sound like?
The acorn smiles. It moves gently between the dandelions, almost as if it were looking to make a home. I think about what that person said.
I
Wonder
wonder.
if real dragons will show up and tear into the ills of the world, or whether we will have to imagine them into being.
I wonder what kind of serious change was stirred up in this hut, and whether the ghosts will speak to me in dreams. What you have to remember is that there was nothing then, in the sense that there were no real amenities. Everything had to be done by hand, and the few machines that had been invented were rudimentary at best. All you had was your wit and what you'd read, if you'd read anything. It took a lot of doing, someone said, to make anything happen. And sometimes the doing had to be done by candlelight, and at other times by the glow of a small lantern. There was cooking involved, too. But before you say anything, know this. Cooking is an ancient art. It holds some secrets. The hut was more than a hut then. It was what some called a cabin. And even though it was in the middle of the woods, it had something of a reputation. Meetings were held in this hut. Most of them had to do with civil liberties and progress, even though, yes, poetry was discussed too. There's this myth that nothing much got done back then, and that a hut like this was merely an excuse for some people to gather together and amuse themselves by telling each other stories. What you have to remember is this. The stories were told at the end of the day, after the work got done, after everything. The real work happened in the hut before the stories were told. There was cooking and tending to the small garden out back, searching the woods for new ingredients and new species. And yes, there were long walks where a great deal of reflection occurred about how one should live an honest life. Often there were encounters, not unlike the one you just had with that person that wanted to rest and tell you a little bit of where they were at. Except then the encounters were perhaps less plain, because most of the people coming through these woods were running away from the worst conditions imaginable. And they'd heard that the poets and the people that lived in this hut would provide food and shelter and safe passage. And they were right. The poet and their people did offer these things in exchange for nothing. In exchange for nothing. Except maybe a song, or a story, or maybe a new recipe. And if you were to go to the hut, you wouldn't see this now, but over there used to be a shelf where all the little stories and songs and recipes were held in small makeshift books written by hand. And if you were to run your hands along the shelf, you could hear all of their voices.
Girl, 15, sold to a man for a handful of gold coins, mother of 2, alone.
Man 25, blind, eyes shot out, hungry, ragged gray pants.
Woman, mother of 5, lost house, escaping the flood.
Boy, 12, alone, desert eyes, journey up the north.
Person, insignificant age, hungry, just hungry.
Person, 20, bound chest,
Girl,
thick
13,
socks.
can't
Man,
smack the
30,
shop.
Woman,
sold
15,
to another man
person,
north.
woman,
Death.
blind, dog,
Man,
girl,
40,
boys,
mission,
looking for
wandering.
work.
Man,
Girl,
able,
older than I am,
the war,
cooks and cleans,
looking
gets
for work.
money.
Desert land.
Girl, 11, person, lost job with automation, kills out for skirt. Girl, likes other girls, passed out of home.
Person, passing through, dreaming of Canada. Shall we talk to each other for a while? Shall we listen to our stories in exchange for nothing, except to be here? Just be here with each other. I'd been thinking about my apartment, the one I no longer had. I'd been thinking about what the world would be like after I'd been in the hut. I'd been thinking about how it was that we were able to recall the songs of those that had passed, but couldn't make our own songs last. I received a letter from the ocean. It was addressed to the person that went away to the hut in the woods. The letter was enclosed in a small envelope that smelled of lilac. I opened the seal carefully. It's not every day, after all, that the ocean writes you a letter. The paper was gossamer thin. The handwriting was barely legible, but it was handwriting. And this surprised me. Did the ocean have an assistant? Was there someone in some lighthouse somewhere charged with the task of answering the ocean's letters? The letter began.
Dear person who went away to the hut in the woods while the world was on fire, I hear you got your voice back.
That you can make sounds again, that words actually come out.
I don't imagine you know what you sound like. But from where I live, it sounds as if every word were dandelion.
I hadn't heard that word in a long time.
Just like I hadn't heard the words nectar, willow, and acorn since you were 7 years of age.
I miss those words. I like them better than blog and cut and paste, but then again, you know that, because you're here in the woods.
In the hut where a poet once lived, and others too.
And soon you will go back to your city and try to live your life again.
And perhaps let go of some of your rage.
And perhaps start to look at others with kindness.
It's not easy, I know.
It can be, I'm used to my rage. It can be useful, you know. Sometimes I rage so much my waves destroy everything.
And I think these humans will learn. They will learn because they have brains and they have logic and reason and this thing too called imagination. And with it they can do so much good and so much beauty.
And so much music. And sometimes when I hear their songs, I can't help but get emotional.
I'm a softie that way. I hope you can forgive me. I know being soft is not in fashion these days.
But sometimes I can't help it. Because
On
sometimes
certain days.
when the light hits the sky a certain way,
Or I see someone walking along the beach.
Their eyes full of possibility,
Or a child is rescued in a peacekeeper's arms.
while bombs carry their city away.
I think,
I'm
in love.
I really am. I love you all so much.
Morning. 9 a.m. I switch on the TV. I put it on mute. I watch the fields of blue and red become ghosts of themselves on the inky map. I want you at my side. I want to feel your warmth. I hope you will forgive me for leaving that day.
Morning, 9 a.m. My sleeplessness is recurring. There's no use seeing a doctor. Some things will always be the same.
Morning, 9 a.m. Upstairs there is the sound of feet. Something about not being able to afford it anymore. We catch sight of each other on the landing. We all have dreams.
Morning, whatever a.m., I think about work. It consumes me. It is all I have. I will do anything to keep it.
Morning, 9 a.m. It's time to stop drinking. You were right. We're not kids anymore. It's time to grow up. We need to climb out of the mess we've made.
Morning. I carry the letter from the ocean in my pocket. I look out the window. I try to see the horizon line. Morning. The acorn rests in a field of dandelions. It will be summer soon.